Have you ever made a mistake at work that cost the company money, or maybe it cost you your reputation? Have you ever lost your job? What about an accident, a major car accident, or even a small trip and fall? What about a robbery? Have you been the victim of theft? What about an attack and been hurt, stabbed, or worse? What about the little mistakes with family and friends? Forgetting special events and birthdays, forgetting your PIN number when you desperately need cash and you can't get money out the machine, or the loss of a loved one through divorce or death. Have you ever been so totally broke that you have relied on charity and on handouts from others? What adversities or challenges have you faced in your life? Well, I have faced everything that I've mentioned and more. In this journey of life, there's a common thread that binds all of us together. Failure. We don't like the word failure. It is an inevitable, relentless companion on the path to success. We all make mistakes, big and small. And it's not the fall that defines us, it's the courage to rise, to soar above the failure, and to find our feet again. I am Lois, your friend for forgiveness, and I help you find your feet after failure. For over 4 decades, I'm nearly 70 years old, I've embarked on a relentless pursuit to find my footing after facing a tumultuous storm and navigating the treacherous terrain of business and life challenges. But it's also been a tapestry of love and happiness and many great successes. This journey of mine has not been without its share of trials, tribulations, misadventures, heartache. But it has been through these experiences that I have discovered the power of resilience, grit, and the transformative magic of a growth mindset, and the freedom and peace that forgiveness brings. In moving on this journey from victim to survivor to thriver to freedom, I created the concept of PLIFM. PLIFM, the acronym PLIFM, P-L-L-F-A-M. It's pick yourself up, laugh, learn, forgive, act, and move on. And this is such a valuable process. If we can follow this process, we can overcome any of life's challenges. So I've got many stories to share, and I'll just share 1 or 2 of them in light of using the PLIFM formula. So the biggest transformative experience I had in my life when I was working late one night in what I thought was my secure courtyard of my little printing business, I was brutally attacked by a stranger. I was raped, I was tied up, and I was left to bleed to death. I survived. I'm here to tell the story. So I became an activist. This happened long before the Me Too movement, long before people were talking about this topic. And I became an activist because I wanted to change the world. And I lobbied and led marches through the streets and wrote blogs and appeared on television. And I did so much to try and change the world, help change the constitution in South Africa. And I did this for about 2 years. And then one day, I just couldn't get out of bed. My back had collapsed. I had 2 back operations, both of them failed. The surgeon had told me that I would never hike or scuba dive again, which were my two passions at the time, because I could never put anything on my back. And I lay in bed. I was bedridden for 6 months, feeling very sorry for myself, until it was brought to my attention that it was all psychosomatic. It was all in my head. And I needed to address this. So I addressed this. I went inside and I went to discover what was happening inside my emotions. And I had 8 chiropractic treatments, and I did a 5-day hiking trail with a 29-kilogram backpack on my back. So how did I do this? And how can you learn to use these same techniques in finding your freedom after failure, in finding your success, finding a new opportunity after any kind of mishap, misadventure, or failure? And I call it my journey to healing. And it applies to anything that has happened to any of you, any mistakes, any failures that you've had. So what happens is, whatever happens, we become a victim of that situation. You lose your job, you're a victim. It's his fault, it's her fault, she did it, why did it? There's blame, there's guilt, there's anger, there's hate. There's all these negative emotions that make us a victim and keep us as a victim. And we need to address those. I didn't address it, and that is why I had the back problem, because I didn't deal with the emotions at the time. It's very important that you separate the event from the emotions, and then you can't change the event. It happened, but you can change how you feel about the event. So you really need to separate it and deal with the emotions. And there are so many modalities and therapies, and you've got to find your own journey. You've got to find your own way. Not one thing works for everybody, but you will find something that works for you. So once you've been disrupted and you've become this victim, you then need to deal with those emotions. And by acknowledging what happened and accepting what happened, and then once you've done that, you can start moving on and you can build your resilience. And this will help you move from being a victim to being a survivor. So remember, though, that a survivor does not, a lot of people say, oh, I survived this. Surviving is still a struggle. You're still trying to come to terms with what happened. You're still trying to find meaning with what happens. So you're picking yourself up, the Pliffim approach, you're picking yourself up. And it's important that you look for the funny. You can always find a touch of humor in any adversity, in any hardship. I found lots of humor after I was attacked. My friends rallied around. We had laughs. I would see a friend home, and then I was scared to drive home, so she would drive me home, and then she was scared to drive home, and then I would drive her home. And it became a bit of a giggle that we couldn't actually drive ourselves home for a while because we were afraid. So we had a good laugh about it. So you can find the humor. So it's pick yourself up and laugh. And the resilience is that building back up. And a lot of people say resilience is bouncing back. You don't bounce back. You crawl your way up. You fight your way back up. So you build your resilience. And once you've got to that survivor mode, you can start moving on to the next mode. And here we want to then build our grit. And our grit is our passion, our perseverance, our persistence. It's those things that help us move forward with a new direction, with new motivation and new energies. And it's there that we grow we develop our growth mindset and we become a thriver. So it's of my Pliffim formula. We've picked ourselves up, we've laughed, and now we are learning. What has this taught me? How has this made me a better person? How can I use this to help other people or to help myself? How has this actually grown me as a human being? And we then need to look at forgiveness, forgiving yourself. So to forgive yourself, I had to forgive myself for not knowing how to fight. I fought this man. He stabbed me with a screwdriver. I fought him at some point. I stabbed him back, but I didn't know how to fight, and he beat me in that fight. So I had to forgive myself for that. I had to forgive myself for drinking too much. Afterwards, I drank too much, and I had to forgive myself for becoming this activist and not dealing with my emotions. So forgiving yourself is very, very important, even for the little things. You know, you've got to forgive yourself for forgetting to phone your friend for your birthday. You've got to forgive yourself for kicking the dog when he ate your slipper. Or you've got to forgive yourself for pushing that snooze button and missing your appointment. So it's so important. And, you know, I always say people keep a gratitude journal today, which is fantastic. We must learn to keep a forgiveness journal every day. 3 little things that you can forgive yourself for that you don't think are that meaningful, but they do help. So forgive yourself for these little things. And then, of course, the next one is to forgive others. Forgive them. So again, the small things for your journal. Forgive your dog for eating your slipper. Forgive your friend for not phoning you on your birthday. And forgive your husband for not bringing the milk home that you asked him to do. So you've got to forgive others. I forgave the rapist 14 years after I was attacked. He was given a 25-year prison sentence, and I went to the prison and I forgave him in the prisons. The most liberating and freeing thing I have ever done in my life is to actually forgive. We sat in the prison. I forgave him. The prison officials told me that they would let me know in 7 days if he got parole or not. I went to a parole hearing. It was quite serendipitous. I was living outside the country. I was coming home for a holiday. I decided to contact the authorities. They told me he was up for parole the day after I arrived in the country. And the law had just changed in South Africa to allow what they call victims of crime to attend a parole hearing. And so there I was, the first person in South Africa to attend one of these new parole hearings, and I forgave the rapist. And they said they would let me know in 7 days. And I said, no, you won't, because what happened in that moment, I was bonded to this guy. I was tied to him. I spoke about him. I dreamt about him. I was afraid of him. And the minute I forgave, I broke that bond, and it freed me from him forever. And I didn't walk out of that prison. I flew out of that prison completely free of the emotions and any negativity associated with that. So forgiving others is extremely, extremely powerful. I don't know if you know the old Ho'oponopono expression. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. I thank you. Just good words to say every day, and just be a forgiving, loving, accepting person, and you will find your life is already that much better. So I say you need to pick yourself up, laugh, learn, forgive, act, and move on to greater opportunities, greater experiences, and a wonderful life. So I am Lois, your friend for forgiveness, and I use the acronym SMILE to describe what I do. S is I'm a speaker and storyteller. I have a book called Walking Without Skin. I'm a mentor, inspirer. I inspire people. I'm a learning facilitator. I teach learning, leadership and management training, and I am an empowering coach. So please forgive, find your feet after failure, and walk free. Thank you very much.